Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch Contenders Roundup. So this is the start of a double header where we look at the last three regions to do their seeding tournaments for the 2020 Season 1 of Overwatch Contenders. So, first of all, we will take a look at South America, one of the smaller regions, obviously, in our pool of regions. There's 7 regions to choose from. If you haven't looked at the other regions yet, I have already done videos on their results, which will be up where the I usually is, probably. So, today we're going to look at the South America region and the European region, and then in a separate video we will look at North America, because North America is quite a lot bigger than the rest of the regions, with a lot more teams in it. So, as I said, let's start with South America, and the teams that would be taking part in the South American seeding tournament were Team Not Found, Dignity, Horus Gaming, Petitos, Upped Gaming, Betrayed, Awakening, and Warpigs. Dignity you might recognise from the Mayhem Winter Classic tournament at the start of the year, which was put on by the Florida Mayhem, and they invited a load of different people to it, and Dignity did take part. So, let's take a look at the quarterfinals, where first of all we see Team Not Found taking on Betrayed. Team Not Found would win this one 3-1. Upgaming would then take on Warpigs, and they would knock Warpigs down to the losers bracket with Upgaming winning 3-1. Petitos then took on Horus Gaming, and Petitos would knock down Horus Gaming to the losers bracket with a 3-0 win, and Awakening forfeited their quarter-final match, meaning Dignity would move on to the semi-finals. In the losers bracket round 1, again Awakening would forfeit, so Betrayed would move on to the losers bracket round 2, and Warpigs would take on the Horus Gaming team, where Warpigs would come out on top 3-0, proceeding to losers bracket round 2. Back to the semi-finals for South America then, and we have Team Not Found taking on Upgaming. This was a pretty one-sided affair, with Team Not Found getting the 3-0 win. And then in the second semi-final we had Petitos taking on Dignity. This was a pretty close affair, however, with Dignity running out with a 3-2 win in the end. All of Dignity's games throughout this tournament were very close, however. Going down to losers bracket round 2 then, and Petitos would take on Betrayed. This was a 3-1 win for Petitos. And then Upgaming would take on Warpigs, and this was one-sided with Warpigs winning 3-0 and knocking out Upgaming. Then we had the losers bracket round 3, where Petitos would take on Warpigs, again, very one-sided with Warpigs winning 3-0. And then we go back to the winners bracket with the winners bracket final, where we see Team Not Found taking on Dignity. Again, really close affair, but Dignity managing to squeeze out a 3-2 win over Team Not Found, knocking them down to the losers final, where they would take on Warpigs. Again, very one-sided with Warpigs winning 3-0. You'll notice that actually, since the loss in the quarterfinals, where Warpigs lost to Upgaming, Warpigs didn't drop a map. Going into the grand final though, they would have to take on Dignity. Arguably the 2 strongest teams in the region, it was a very close game, but Warpigs did run out 3-2 winners in a very close game, meaning Warpigs would be the number 1 seed coming out of the seeding tournament. What does this mean for Contenders 2020 Season 1 in Brazil and the South American region? Well, this means that Warpigs will be the first seed, along with Dignity in second, Team Not Found in third, and Petitos in fourth. They will all 4 of them go through to Contenders, the main tournament, and then dropping into Trials, you've got Betrayed and Upgaming, Horus Gaming, and Awakening in the 5th and 6th, and then the 7th and 8th spots. So no one goes down to Open Division or anything, because there's not enough teams to do that. And to be quite honest, I think this might be a fairly similar look to what we see in the latter tournament for Contenders 2020 Season 1 in South America. But that's it for South America. Let's move on to Europe, where we have some more teams than we saw in South America, but it's very complicated in Europe, and I'll go through it now. So, we saw HSL Esports, Niriki Esports, Clockwork Vendetta, British Hurricane, Angry Titans, Samsung Morning Stars, Young and Beautiful, Shoes Money Crew EU, and Eternal Academy. So, this meant... this is very complicated, and I don't know why they've done it this way. But we had round 1 where everyone received a bye, except Eternal Academy and Shoes Money Crew EU, who had to play each other to find out who would be going through. This was a 3-1 win for Shoes Money Crew EU. Shoes Money Crew EU actually did pretty well during this tournament, so we'll be talking about them quite a bit. They will go through to the quarterfinals. Everyone else went through because they received byes. Eternal Academy then dropped down to the losers bracket round 1, where of course they received a bye because, well, there's no one to take on because there's one extra team in this European seeding tournament. There's 9 teams because Eternal Academy were invited, whereas the rest of them came in from Contenders Season 2 2019. Eternal Academy were invited, so there were 9 teams, and so there's a lot of byes in the early round. But moving on to the quarterfinals of the winning bracket, and we have HSL Esports taking on Shoes Money Crew EU. HSL Esports, current holders of Contenders in Europe, they do lose to Shoes Money Crew EU though, which was a bit of a shock. HSL Esports would drop down to the losers bracket. Then we had British Hurricane taking on Angry Titans. Now this is a storied history because Angry Titans and British Hurricane have been 2 teams that have been at the very pinnacle of Contenders, but also British Hurricane have been at the other end as well. Angry Titans are perhaps not as strong as they have been in the past right now, and it showed here with British Hurricane taking them down 3-0. A warning is, watch out for British Hurricane this Contenders 2020 season because boy oh boy they're looking good, but that's spoilers. Moving on, we had Samsung Morning Stars taking on Clockwork Vendetta. Samsung Morning Stars looking good. Clockwork Vendetta with a lot of rebuilding to do right now by the looks of it. They lose 3-1 to Samsung Morning Stars. Samsung Morning Stars move on to the semi-finals and Clockwork Vendetta go down to the losers bracket. Lastly, we had Young and Beautiful taking on Niriki Esports. Niriki Esports are taking up the spot of Team Giganti if you didn't know. And Niriki Esports do run out 3-2 winners over Young and Beautiful. Young and Beautiful coming in from Contenders Trials mainly. Niriki Esports should be an interesting one because they picked up a lot of the remnants of the Team Giganti roster. Obviously, Team Giganti is going to be a big name missing from Contenders 2020, and I do hope we see that team back one day in the future. Losers bracket round 2 then. Only one game actually happened. Guess what happened in the rest of them? Young and Beautiful would take on the Eternal Academy. They would knock out the Eternal Academy. Eternal Academy failed to win a game. And yeah, that's the end of that story. Young and Beautiful moving on to losers bracket round 2. Clockwork Vendetta, Angry Titans and HSL Esports all move on to losers bracket round 3 because, well, they had no one to take on. 4 matches and only 5 teams. Can't make the games. But moving on to losers bracket round 2, we have no more byes, thank goodness for that. Young and Beautiful will take on Clockwork Vendetta. This is where Clockwork Vendetta's seeding tournament would end because Young and Beautiful got a 3-0 win over Clockwork Vendetta, which is actually rather surprising. I thought Young and Beautiful and Clockwork Vendetta would be fairly evenly matched in this match, with Clockwork Vendetta not looking as good as they were, but Young and Beautiful really turned up and they managed to knock out Clockwork Vendetta in fairly convincing fashion. Then we had Angry Titans taking on HSL Esports. Again, 2 teams that have been really at the pinnacle of Contenders in the past. Angry Titans a while ago now, HSL Esports current holders. HSL Esports obviously on the end of that shock loss to Shoes Money Crew EU in the quarterfinals, but they weren't going to make a mistake this time, knocking Angry Titans out of the competition 3-1. Angry Titans have got a lot of work to do if they want to get back to where they were a couple of seasons ago in Contenders, because they're currently just not there. So we go back to the winners bracket and the semi-finals where we see Shoes Money Crew EU taking on British Hurricane. Again, British Hurricane look very, very good in this semi-final, managing to beat Shoes Money Crew EU 3-1 and knock them down to the losers bracket. Shoes Money Crew EU, nothing to be ashamed of. Don't get me wrong, British Hurricane are looking very, very strong. They were looking very strong in Breakable Barriers as well when they took part in the first week of Breakable Barriers at the end of last year. British Hurricane are certainly looking a mighty powerful team going into this 2020 season. And yeah, one to definitely look out for. Shoes Money Crew EU though, doing well, and I think they're on course for a decent Contender season so far. And then a second semi-final, we saw Samsung Morning Stars taking on Niriki Esports. If you might know Samsung Morning Stars actually because a lot of their talent actually made its way into the Overwatch League. So actually a decent team. Niriki Esports, obviously we've talked about them and their connections to Team Giganti. And this is a very close game, but Samsung Morning Stars do manage to see off Niriki Esports 3-2 in a very close encounter. Nothing to be ashamed of. Niriki Esports are still trying to gel after that. Obviously, I think Niriki were not going to take part in Contenders, and then they saw Team Giganti drop out, because I thought Niriki got rid of their entire roster at one point. So it's a big change up. It was good to see someone take up that Team Giganti roster. And they will be dropping down to the losers bracket for round 4. Talking of the losers bracket round 4, let's get through that then. Shoes Money Crew EU taking on Young and Beautiful. This is a surprise because Young and Beautiful do run out 3-1 winners over Shoes Money Crew here. And I'm surprised. Shoes Money Crew being able to get the win over HSL. I would thought they'd have enough to see off Young and Beautiful, but apparently not. So Young and Beautiful will proceed to the losers semi-finals, but who would they be facing? Would it be Nariki Esports or HSL Esports? Well, it would be the current contenders champions, HSL Esports, running out very comfortable winners over Nariki here, 3-0. Again, there will be work to be done for Nariki Esports. It's in its very early stage right now with its new roster. I think this actually has the potential to be a very good team, Nariki Esports, and I really hope it does kind of carry on the mantle of some of those Giganti players and really does well in EU, because someone needs to carry that mantle for them. And HSL will be moving on to take on Young and Beautiful in the loser semi-finals, where we have a very close encounter. But HSL Esports do manage to get a very narrow 3-2 win over Young and Beautiful. What I will say for Young and Beautiful, though, is compared to their performance in Breakable Barriers, this is a massive, massive improvement. And if this is a taste of the improvement they can show, I think it could be a very good contender season coming up for Young and Beautiful. And certainly not a contender season where I'd expect them to be languishing in trials, put it that way. So, we have the winners final to look at, and this was between British Hurricane and Samsung Morning Stars. This was not close. British Hurricane winning this 3-0 in very quick fashion. British Hurricane, I keep saying it, very powerful right now. Very powerful roster. They do have the ex-LA Gladiator support Reaper on their team. Honestly, British Hurricane are probably going to go into the 2020 Season 1 of Contenders in Europe as favourites. Most likely. Samsung Morning Stars, though, would drop down to the losers bracket final where they would take on HSL Esports. This was a 3-1 for HSL Esports. Samsung Morning Stars, nothing to be ashamed of. I think they will be there and thereabouts in this coming Season 1. I really think Samsung Morning Stars had the potential to be a really decent team in this coming season, and we will see where the future takes them. But we have a grand final to go to. It is the British Hurricane taking on the HSL Esports. Two teams that have won Contenders in its current format. And to be quite honest, two teams that you would expect to be at the top of Contenders for this coming season. But currently, the power of British Hurricane is relentless. They get a 3-0 win over the current champions of Contenders, HSL Esports, in very, very quick fashion. And I mean it. It was a very, very quick game, this final. It's kind of frightening how well British Hurricane are doing right now. If they continue this into the Contenders season, this sort of form, there's not going to be a lot of teams that can stop the Hurricane. That's for sure. They are definitely looking to be back to where they were in 2018, I believe, when they actually won Contenders. So, yeah, definitely my favourites for the Contenders 2020 Season 1 in Europe would be British Hurricane, because there is not a lot of teams, if any teams in Europe right now, that can stop that team. So they are looking crazy powerful. But what that means for the seeding in Contenders Europe is the first seeding will be British Hurricane, obviously. In second, we have HSL Esports. In third, we have Samsung Morning Stars. And in fourth, we have Young and Beautiful, who have arguably overachieved. Very good result for Young and Beautiful there. Being able to get themselves a spot straight into Contenders, avoiding the trials, which is very good. Just missing out on those top four spots was Nariki Esports and Shoes Money Crew EU. Nariki probably had their eyes on that fourth spot. It's a bit disappointing for them, but they should be able to get through trials. Again, same with Shoes Money Crew. 7th to 8th, we see Clockwork Vendetta and Angry Titans. All of these guys will be in trials. Angry Titans and Clockwork Vendetta, it's a bit disappointing, but they are in the rebuilding stage, so I don't think we could have expected much more. I think they should be able to get through to the main Contenders tournament, though. And then in 9th, we had the Eternal Academy. They have just squeaked into trials, not having to go through Open Division. Eternal Academy, a lot of improvements needed there if they want to compete with the best in Europe right now in Tier 2. But that is going to be it for this one. This was Europe and South America. The next one will be North America, which is a very chunky region in the seeding tournament, so that's why it gets its very own video. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.